Hello, everybody. This is Paul Crammy of Sirius Software. Today's topic is going to be creating estimates and creating orders, and then walking the process through from estimate creation to an order and to to the sales side of that. So I'm going to change views here, and then we will resume our discussion. Okay. Change my view here. Now we can begin. So to start the process of creating an order or an estimate, either one, we're going to go up to the taskbar, and I'm going to create or choose the downward arrow. And let's begin with an estimate. I'm going to create a new estimate. Now I could have done that from the navigator screen, but I'm not going to do that. So the data entry process, I'm actually just going to walk through the process and not create one, and then we'll look at an existing estimate, to take it to the next step. So if I'm creating a new estimate or a new order, this part of it is the same for both of them. I would simply enter the name of the company that I'm looking for, and once it comes up, then that's populated, and then I'm going to leave the pricing level and the promotions alone. Um, I might note that if you're starting an estimate for a new company, you could also, from this screen, create a new company and then return back to creating the actual estimate, the rest of the way through. So the description is just put in any meaningful description of what it is that you're creating, perhaps for the customer, and then you would populate the line items all the way through. So we're in the items tab. And I'm going to cancel this, and I'm simply going to go now to a completed estimate, and we'll take it the rest of the way from there. So I'm going to pick the second one here. So we've created the estimate. It's for this customer, and it's for this kind of description. And the line items, that has two line items. That's the part of creating the estimate. Um, Now down at the bottom, I want to point this out to you. You'll see the variations down here at the very bottom. Now this particular feature has to be turned on before you can create a variation. Think of variation as a means of presenting the customer with a choice. In other words, you're going to create a couple of different combinations of things that they would likely choose from, but you're going to present that in a way that makes it appear that it's two completely different estimates that you present to them. It provides a very professional way of showing that verification or that to the customer. Now, let me digress, because the variation feature has to be turned on before you can use that. And I'm going to do that by going up here to the top and setup in the taskbar. And then I'm going to go to system setup, and then orders or estimates and orders right here, estimate options. And I'm going to edit this so you can see it a little bit better. The second entry here that says use variations for estimates, that check mark has to be on before you can create an estimate with variations in it. Okay, so I'm going to cancel this since it's already active, and close that screen. Now we can come back to the estimate. Now, as I said before, when you're creating a new estimate or you're creating a new order, you're going to begin basically the same way. and you're going to enter the company number or the company information. You're going to leave the pricing level alone. Now, I might add that if the company that you're doing the estimate for or the order for, if they have associated with that company either a pricing level or a promotion or both, then that will carry over into the new estimate or a new order that you're creating. That's the nice part about those two items, that you can associate that with the company and then use those without needing to remember to turn them on as you go along. So we got the company chosen. These are either going to be pre-populated, or and then you can put in the description as you want. Now, if you have one that's pre-populated with a pricing level or a promotion, you can take that back to standard pricing if you don't want it to apply to a particular order. So the next thing we would have done, whether again it's in an estimate or in an order, is add the number of line items that you need to do. There's no reason to do that. Let's edit this and just walk through one just real quickly. I'm going to widen this out so we can see. Let's say that we're going to add another digital print. Let's do 6 of them. Let's do on a roll print, 6 of them. Let's do 24 inches by 2 feet by 3 feet. And on a roll printer, Brit vinyl, let's do that material. Okay. And I'm going to stop at that point. Let's go over here to the right and let's actually mount that to a piece of substrate. So it's mounting. We're going to do it by hand, or by hand. And the material that we want to mount it to is aluminum. And let's say that it's a brushed aluminum. Now I'm going to say okay to that. So we've added a line item, to that, and it would work exactly the same way if you were doing this for a, in an order to create a new order. Now, after you're all done, if you need to, you can come in and browse and view the company if you need to for any reason at all. Then you're going to go to the totals tab and kind of see a summary of what it is. This is where you would enter a PO number if one was going to be required. This is going to pre-populate a due date. So if it's going to be a different date, let's make this January 3rd this year. Put in the PO number if necessary. Now notice here that it's assumed the default tax location, which is where your business resides, and this is the tax. Now, I might add that if you need to change the tax class and choose something different, that's where you would do it up here. Simply pull the arrow down, and if it's an out-of-state job, you would choose out of state, say okay, and now the taxes are 0. And notice the red box that's around this. That indicates that the taxes have been overridden for this particular estimate or this particular order. So that creates we've created took an existing one, we added another line item to it, and now let's save that as an estimate. Now I'm going to digress here just real quickly because I want you to see the effect of the variations. So in variation 1, that's where we see the 3 line items, this third one being the one that we just created. Now I'm going to edit this again, and I'm going to create a second variation. Okay. Now to do that, I had to be in the edit mode. I can do that by cloning And what that would do would be to duplicate all three of these line items in the second variation. So that's what I'm going to do in the interest of time. So now notice that it's variation 1 cloned. I'm going to choose the rename button, and I'm going to call this one variation 2. And say okay. So now I've got variation 1 and variation 2. Right now, they're the same. So let's take this one here and change the size from 2 by 3 to 4 by 8. And we're going to use the same material over here. So I'm going to say okay now. So the two estimates are two variations are essentially the same, with the exception of one of the line items. Okay. So I'm going to say save that. Now, if we do a print in a preview, just so you can see what the variations impact has in how it's presented to the customer, that's what I want to really show you here. Okay, come on, wake up. There we go. So as you can see, make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. It's all estimate 540. And this is the option for variation 1. And then each variation begins on a new page. So now it's the same estimate number 540, and it's variation number 2. Okay. And if I were to scroll down, you will see a total for this variation. And if I go backwards to look at the first one and scroll down, you would see the total for the second variation. So the customer sees that it appears to them as if it's two completely distinct estimates. And that's the objective of the variations. I want to go back to the totals tab for just 1 second. Make sure that I haven't missed anything here. I alluded in an earlier discussion in maybe one of the other videos about the two different kinds of origins. This is where the second one comes in. This origin is how did the customer come to you for this particular estimate or this particular order, either one. So if they came to you because of a referral, that's what you would choose. Again, that's not mandatory that you use those. I encourage you to consider doing so because it helps you from a marketing perspective and getting a better feel for where your business is coming from. So we've created the line items, we've saved it, we've created a variation, and now we're ready to convert this to an order. So I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to close it deliberately. So if we are back at the home screen, and a day or 2 days or 3 days later, the customer calls you back and say, "Hey, you created this an estimate for me, and I'm ready to proceed with it." So now you're getting ready to actually convert that to an order. So we're going to explore estimates. And it was this, I chose estimate or orders instead of estimates. So it's this one here that we just created. So I'm going to open it up, and it has the two variations. Okay. Now I'm going to close it again because I want to walk through the different ways that you can actually initiate the conversion process. So if you don't need to make any changes to it, then probably would be the most efficient to simply do a right mouse click and come down and where it says convert. If that's what you're going to do, then it would give you the necessary prompts and you could go from there. Before I do that, I want to show you the other way. You could actually open the estimate. You could edit it if you needed to, making any changes or additions or subtractions from it, and then resave it. Let's pretend that that's what we did. And now you can convert it directly from here. So you can convert it from an estimate to an order from the Explorer estimate screen, or if you need to make changes of any kind, you could open the estimate, make your changes, save those changes, and then you can convert it from the action toolbar. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, this dialog is simply asking you to confirm that yes, indeed, you want to convert this to an order. So I'm going to say yes, but I want to review these two options right here first. So if you didn't intend to to convert it, then obviously you would have said no here. The lock, notice these little padlocks over here on the left that look like open little yellow padlocks. If you didn't want anyone to make a change after this estimate had been converted to an order, then you would put a check mark here that says lock those line items so that they cannot be changed when it gets into the order stage without having adequate permissions to do so. So if you need to lock it to make sure that no other changes are made, put a check mark here before you answer yes. If you need to make changes to it before it gets saved as an order, then you would put a check mark on the second item that's going to give you an opportunity to make changes. And if you don't put a check mark on either one of them and then say yes, it's going to go through the motions of converting that estimate to an order. Now you're going to be prompted. You're going to be prompted here in just a second. Now, because we're working with an estimate that has at least two variations, it's asking you here to choose which variation you want. So let's say that we're going to choose variation number 2. That's the one that the customer said they wanted to do. Now, it's worthy of noting that you're choosing either one of the variations. So you can't pick and choose line items from that estimate as a direct result of converting, okay? There will be a different way that you would have to do that. So I'm waiting for the conversion to complete itself. This is okay. It's my environment that I'm in, that reason that you see that. And now it is asking if you want to post a payment. I'm going to say no. We'll cover payments in a different webinar video. And now it is, notice that it's in work in process. It's been saved. And it's now order number 1079 up here at the top. Okay. So that's the conversion process. Now, had I been starting from scratch to create a new order, I would have done absolutely everything the same, except that there wouldn't have been a choice for variations because you're literally creating the order from scratch. And when there's not a conversion because you're taking it straight to an order, but the entry of the parameters for the company, the description, the line items, that process would be identical whether you were doing it from from an estimate entry or from an order entry. Now, I want to reopen this estimate. Notice that it says that it's been converted. So if I open that, I want to show you one thing. Oh, come on. I'm having a terrible time getting that to select the way I want. There we go. If we go down, notice at the extreme bottom left, the variation number 2 is in that first position. It's also referred to as the active position. So you can move these around, but once you convert and you choose the variation that you're converting, it becomes the active one, and it's always going to appear in this left-hand position. Now, notice one other thing. You don't see on the action toolbar, you don't see the ability to edit. So once an estimate has been created and saved and converted, that estimate is locked from any further changes. Now, if you want to reuse it, that's perfectly fine. You would simply have to clone that estimate and resave it as a new one, and then you could make whatever additional additions or changes that you might want to to make. That concludes this topic on creating estimates and orders. I hope it's been helpful, and I hope that you'll watch another video here soon. Take care.